Hello, my dear. I hope this finds you well. We've got rainy weather here. We've had some lovely bright days, though. And spring is surely on the way. It's desperately trying to break through here, more than coming trumpeting down the avenues of trees. So I was thinking, what should we contemplate this week? Should we continue to bounce back and forth as we have been between the Greeks and the moderns? Everybody who follows the Greeks really is a modern. I mean, that's discounting Roman drama, which I'm slightly inclined to do. We could dwell with Seneca for a while, but I'm not sure that we'd find anything revolutionary in there, sufficiently revolutionary to hold our attention. And one of the problems with Roman drama, closet drama as it has often been called, because it's there for the reading rather than for the performance, is that it hasn't really become part of the canon of theatre, and so the judgment of practical theatre itself has been a thumbs down on Roman drama, and nothing more happens except for some very interesting Christian pageantry. At least in the West, nothing much is happening until Shakespeare elbows his way into the burgeoning storytelling drama of the late 16th century, and he transforms it with extraordinary, singular personal musculature and grace, and creates something new, and that, in a sense, is extremely modern and remains modern. To this day, it's modern. So we have the Greeks are the entire ancient world, and the rest is modern. It seems to me that my thesis inescapably is that the Greeks had pretty much covered the waterfront, and that what the moderns have done with drama is a series of footnotes, glorious, magnificent footnotes. Oh my God, the sheer beauty of the end of Uncle Vanya, with a kind of tragic quietism in it. You wouldn't want to miss that. Life without Uncle Vanya would be desperate indeed. So that the Greeks did leave us room to scribble in the margins and at the foot of the page. And I thought perhaps we should allow ourselves to contemplate outliers which don't conform to any through line in drama, given that the through line I'm positing really is an explosive divergence, the blackboard of dramatic history spattered with the atoms that result from the end of Greek drama. So one of these atoms racing across the blackboard on its own, in a destiny of its own and a journey to nowhere, is one that I'm teaching at the moment in another class. And I realized this morning I've been teaching it for 50 years. And I'm none the wiser. I'm proud to say I think I must have been doing something right. Not to have sorted out, quote unquote, what is to be said about this play. And the play is Danton's Death by Carl Georg Büchner, a young man. He's a young man forever, poor darling man, dead at the age of 23. A young revolutionary who managed to get away from the state police, who captured his partner in the creation of the Hessische Landbote, a revolutionary pamphlet, and Pastor Weidich, Büchner's partner, was caught and tortured and imprisoned and died in prison. And so Büchner was lucky to get away. He left his native Hesse and holed up in Strasbourg with a secret policeman outside in the street, outside the house he was living in, watching him day and night as he wrote his great works. He got a job because he was a brilliant boy. He got a scientist's job at the University of Zurich, where he was where the work he did on the nerves of a fish, the barbel, were instantly published and have remained scientifically correct and scientifically fertile since his death on February the 19th. It's a terrible thing to remember that so clearly because it's my birthday. It's the reason. Poor young fellow died of diphtheria on my birthday, with his girlfriend on the way to find him and arriving too late. So this very young man, with some books, one in particular, but some knowledge of the French Revolution in his head, sat down with the secret police outside his door to write what has become one of the greatest, most enduring works of dramatic literature ever, Danton's Death. And the interesting thing about this play, which I hope you will read and I hope you will succeed in freeing yourself from the puzzlement at, let me just dwell on that puzzlement for a moment. It's completely appropriate. It's not a puzzlement at what's going on, although there's a certain amount of that. It's a puzzlement at how on earth to get a grip on a play with what seems like 100 characters and non-stop references to the French Revolution itself, about which you cannot possibly be well enough informed to sort out the play. But I want you to understand that you don't have to sort it out at all. You don't have to know a thing about the French Revolution. That can be names going past, because the essence of the conversations and the confrontations that happen in the play are patently not historical ones. They're timeless, existential ones. The main characters are all concerned with death and emptiness of meaning, the emptiness of meaning that renders both love and politics completely irrelevant. And that's what happens in the play, because there is no foundation in reality to support either love or politics. And there's a wonderful moment in which that's revealed, in which two of the many, many unnamed characters in the play have a quick, short conversation in which one talks about being afraid of the puddle, of crossing the puddle in the street, and the other says, "You were frightened," and the first one says, "Yes, the earth has such a thin crust." And you realize that sense that life is lived on the edge of a precipice. In fact, life is lived on thin ice that might give way at any moment, is the context of the play. Everybody lives with that utter existential terror that makes love and death small. So that's what's being talked about all the time, from the very first scene, by these characters who are caught up in epic political events and fight for their lives, but at the same time, like Danton, they fight maddeningly for his friends, kind of half-heartedly. He's a lion when he gets up and he roars at the montagne. The convention at the time was divided into the mountain, where the true revolutionaries, Robespierre's supporters were, and the plain, which was where the moderates were, which now include Danton in their midst, although he has been the ferocious warrior of the revolution, killing people, which now haunts him. Yet when he gets up to roar, he roars magnificently. But then when he stops, he just thinks, what was all that? And before he does the roaring, he thinks, why am I bothering? He's confident that he will survive. He says throughout the play, ils n'oseront pas. They will not dare. They will not dare kill him. They're killing everybody, but they won't dare kill him because he's the very spirit of the revolution. With his magnificent appetite for experiences which may indeed have been the man. Some historians say he was completely corrupt and his appetite was for money, amongst other things, and other historians say no, he was truly a man of gargantuan appetites and yet of democratic impulses, believed in the people of France, wanted that, didn't want them to be fed on the heads of aristocrats, saw beyond that to something greater in the revolution. At the same time, because it's a Büchner writing, he sees into the darkness and the depth of things in and of themselves. And it is perhaps the first and last great existential drama. It's panoramic, not only in terms of characters, but panoramic in terms of the distance between, on the one hand, the politics taken tremendously seriously in the play, scenes in the convention, and the amorous life and politics of the play also taken tremendously seriously. Danton and his mistresses, Danton and his wife, Camille and his beloved wife Lucille. These are wonderful love stories, and at the same time, the moment they get to speak, the characters are openly acknowledging the terror of standing on this fragile earth. And at the very end, Lucille creates her own death. Camille, her beloved husband, a big supporter of Danton, has gone to the guillotine with Danton, and she doesn't wish to survive. And indeed, although Julie, Danton's wife, takes poison, Lucille can't even find the energy to do that, and she stands in the street and she's thinking what to do, and then she understands what it is, and she cries, "Long live the king," the last line of the play, which is suicide. You can't cry that in the streets of revolutionary Paris where the king has been killed. The king has had to be killed for the sake of the revolution, and she cries that, and she commits a kind of suicide by cop. And so what you get is, as a means of contemplating revolution itself, the play is clearly a vehicle for that, a declaration of the failure of the revolution, that somebody, a character we love, can stand in the street and say, "Long live the king," but also that has no political meaning. It's empty, devoid of all political meaning, and only means the personal thing, the despair, only means the suicide of the character who's decided to go the same way as her husband went, by guillotine. So the jury is out in the play on the success of the revolution. The author is a young revolutionary, and he is appalled by what happened to the French Revolution as it devoured its children, and as its heroes devoured each other. Robespierre went to the guillotine soon after Danton, as Danton prophesies, and so we're given the essence of what Büchner felt, which was the terrifying emptiness of existence, the terrifying challenge to the heart and to the mind of existence itself, and yet lived through the hugest and most passionate events, one of these being the French Revolution, which only just happened when it was barely more than a generation back when he wrote this play. So do have a look at it, because it is a great outlier, and it, I think, asks some questions about what theatre is, what theatre could be, that we have not yet answered or confronted. And that's something that we could talk about. Like all outliers, it says to us, "Why didn't you pick me up and take me to the dance? Was there something wrong with me?" So I hope you read and are as enthralled by it as so many people have been since it was first performed. Not that soon. Poor Büchner never saw his own plays performed. But what he saw in his mind, that we have, and that seizes us by the throat. Till soon, my dear.